He conquered half the world by age 30, and cried because there was nothing left to conquer. We're about to discover why the greatest military genius in history was also his own worst enemy. This is the story of how unstoppable ambition destroyed the man who achieved the impossible. In 336 BCE, a 20-year-old prince took over a debt-ridden kingdom with enemies everywhere. Philip II, Alexander's father, had just been assassinated at his own daughter's wedding. The Greek city-states were already planning their rebellion, sensing weakness. Young Alexander faced a choice that would define human history: consolidate what his father built, or risk everything for something unprecedented. What the world didn't know yet was that this decision would echo through millennia. Alexander made his first move, and it was terrifying in its boldness. Instead of securing his borders, he marched south to crush the Greek rebellion before it began. He razed Thebes to the ground as an example, selling 30,000 survivors into slavery. But what was chilling was this: he spared the house of Pindar, the poet, because he respected literature. The world witnessed a man who could be ruthlessly pragmatic and surprisingly cultured in the same breath. The Greeks submitted, but this was just the beginning. Alexander's eyes were already looking east, toward the Persian Empire that had haunted Greek nightmares for generations. Alexander crossed the Hellespont with his 35,000 men, about to face the largest empire the world had ever seen. But Alexander did something unprecedented. He built a causeway across the water, creating a land bridge where none existed. For 7 months, he personally supervised the construction while under constant attack. Darius had assembled over 1 million men, war elephants, and scythed chariots. At the Hydaspes River, he defeated King Porus and his war elephants, but the victory cost him dearly. His horse Bucephalus died, and for the first time, Alexander truly grieved. Alexander created an empire stretching from Greece to India, spread Greek culture across 3 continents, and became a legend that inspired Caesar, Napoleon, and countless others. Want to discover more amazing history makers? Subscribe and hit that notification bell. His empire crumbled with him, proving even gods have limits. Alexander proved that you can conquer the world, but you can't conquer yourself. In the end, the greatest general in history was defeated by the one enemy he could never outmaneuver: his own insatiable hunger for more. Sometimes being unstoppable is exactly what stops you. When he reached the Bees River and wanted to continue east, his soldiers finally said no. Darius III commanded over 1 million soldiers across his vast Persian territories. At Issus, he faced Darius III himself in battle. The man who never lost a battle lost to the one enemy he couldn't defeat: the limits of human endurance. Alexander retreated, but something inside him broke. He was no longer the golden boy of Macedonia. He had become something darker, more paranoid, more desperate to prove his divinity. He had chosen the battlefield, prepared the ground, and brought everything the Persian Empire could muster. He planned new conquests: Arabia, perhaps the Western Mediterranean. But his body was failing, racked by wounds and fever. His closest friends were dead, some by his own hand in paranoid rages. He drank heavily, trying to drown the voices that told him he was mortal. When he fell ill and died at 32, the truth became clear. Alexander didn't die from poison or fever. He died because he had achieved the impossible and discovered it wasn't enough. The greatest general in history was destroyed by his own limitless ambition. Alexander had just 47,000 men, but his confidence was absolute. The battle began before dawn, and Alexander executed the most brilliant tactical maneuver in military history. He feinted left, drew the Persian line thin, then charged through the gap straight at Darius. When the Persian king fled again, the world realized it had witnessed the death of one empire and the birth of another. But Alexander's face in victory revealed something haunting. He wasn't satisfied. He was already looking beyond Persia, toward India, toward the ends of the earth. When Tyre finally fell, Alexander's revenge was swift and brutal, minus 8,000 killed, 30,000 sold into slavery. But what unsettled observers wasn't just the violence. It was the methodical way he reshaped geography itself to achieve his goals. The world witnessed someone who refused to accept that anything was impossible. The odds were impossible, but Alexander visited Troy first, laying a wreath on Achilles' tomb. When he emerged, he was different, convinced he was the son of Zeus-Ammon, a living god. He founded Alexandria, the first of many cities that would bear his name. But there was something disturbing about his growing megalomania. The boy who wept reading Homer was becoming something else entirely. Conquering the world was changing the conqueror, and it seemed that what Alexander was becoming was not entirely human anymore. He wasn't just conquering. He was trying to become a legend like his hero. At the Battle of Granicus, Alexander personally led the cavalry charge, always fighting at the front. His men would follow him into hell, but one had to wonder if that's exactly where he was leading them. Alexander marched deeper into Asia Minor, employing tactics that shouldn't work, but somehow did. The siege of Tyre revealed Alexander's terrifying determination. The island city believed it was unconquerable, protected by the sea. Most generals would negotiate or move on. In Egypt, something changed in Alexander forever. The Egyptians welcomed him as a liberator from Persian rule, but he journeyed to the oracle of Ammon in the desert. At Gaugamela, Alexander faced Darius III in the final confrontation that would decide the fate of two civilizations. Alexander pushed into India, where he finally met his match, not in an enemy, but in his own men. Returning to Babylon, Alexander was no longer the youth who had crossed the Hellespont. The world had witnessed the rise and fall of the most successful conqueror in human history. Alexander's story proves that even the greatest victories can become the seeds of ultimate defeat.